welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a really fun video for you guys. I'm going to be reviewing the Elvie breast pump, which is a cordless breast pump, and I am so excited to show it to you guys and review it for you. And I also want to thank Elvie for sponsoring today's video. I am also going to be talking a little bit about breastfeeding and also about my personal postpartum journey, what to expect postpartum and how I'm doing. If you are new to my channel, I actually just had my 4th little boy, so I have been through this newborn postpartum journey and breastfeeding quite a few times. I was able to breastfeed all of my boys. I breastfed my first son Carter for about 6 months, and then with my other boys I exclusively pumped for 9 months, and I kind of pumped in between there as well. So if you have not ever seen the Elvie pump before, let me show you what it looks like. Here is the box that the Elvie pump comes in, and this is what it looks like when you wear it, and this is what the actual pump looks like. So here is what the breast pump looks like. And as you can see, there are no cords attached. This is actually where you charge it at. So I just pulled mine off the charger. But how cool is this, you guys? A pump that you do not have to be connected to any kind of cords is amazing to me. The main reason why I didn't pump a lot in the past is because I absolutely hate to be tied down to cords. As a new mom, I have so much to get done, and that time when my baby is sleeping and I'm ready to pump, the last thing that I want to do is be tied down to a chair or an outlet in the corner of the room and pump. I think it is truly amazing that there is a pump now like Elvie to where you can pump doing almost anything. I can be washing the dishes, I can be doing the laundry, riding in the car, driving around, running errands. Not only is this cordless, but it is silent as well. So most pumps that I've had in the past are like extremely loud. These are actually silent. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put one of these in. This container part holds 5 ounces. I do like that these are not, they don't pump directly into bags. That way you can use your own bags. You don't have to buy separate bags for these, specific bags for them. And I really enjoy just the fact that this pops right off and I can pour mine into my own bags and then pop it back in. So it looks like this. This is what the milk is pumped into, and it has the ounces up here on the side. 5 ounces reaches right here, and then you just twist this off and pour it into a bag and then put this right back on. So all of these pieces come off really easily. This just pops right off. You can clean all of this out. I am going to go ahead and pump and then show you that it is actually silent, and then show you the milk that comes out. The pump actually comes with these bra extenders. So if you want to use these, you can add them to your bra. That way the pump fits inside comfortably and you don't have to buy new bras or anything. So the pump comes with 2 different nipple shield sizes. Everybody's nipples and boobs are totally different sizes, and that is totally okay, and that is why they provide different sizes for different people. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in. All I have on is a nursing tank right now, and then a nursing bra, and I'm gonna go ahead and slip this inside. It has a little bit of a guide here to where your nipple should go. But as you can see here, it has the power button, and it will turn on right here, and then you can actually increase and decrease the suction right there. And then you can also use the app, which I'll show you guys in a minute. That way you don't have to constantly be looking down at what is in the bottom part here and see how much milk you've pumped. You can actually just look at your app. So once your pump is connected to the Elvie app via Bluetooth, you can see how much you've pumped as well as how long you've been pumping and the battery life left on your pump. I can actually control as well and increase or decrease the suction, as well as start and pause the pump. And here is how much I have pumped so far. This is about 3 ounces or so. And once I'm done, I will just go down and hit the finish button. It will tell me how much I have pumped and how much on each side. I only pumped the left side for this video, but I think that this is a super cool feature of the Elvie pump. I'm going to go ahead and reattach the little clip for the cami right here. and let it pump. So I am going to tell you guys a little bit more about the pump, and then I am going to answer some questions that I asked on Instagram, or I asked for on Instagram. That way you guys had a chance to ask me some questions about the pump, and I will answer those also. But like I said earlier, this is completely silent, so really all I can hear is the milk dripping down into the bottom. So I did have some questions about the pump, and I'm going to go ahead and answer those real quick while I'm continuing to pump. Someone asked, how well does it work compared to the standard double electric pump? I don't feel like it is lacking in suction at all. I feel like it is getting pretty much everything out of there. I have had a lot of questions about when I pump, how often I pump, my pumping schedule, all that kind of stuff. So because I don't necessarily have to pump right now, however, there are times where I may go on a date night with my husband and leave my baby with a babysitter, and I would need a bottle for then. I also like to just have an emergency stash in the freezer pretty much at all times, just able to make a bottle in case something happens. So it just makes me feel better and less anxious if I have a little bit of a stockpile going. However, when I had Carter, I pumped a lot, and I feel like just the feeling of being tied down made me extremely anxious, and I started to really hate pumping at that time because I had to be tied down. If I had had this in the past, I think I would have felt so much more free and just really enjoy being able to pump and provide for him rather than making it feel like such a task and a burden. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this out and see how much I've got here. So it looks like I've got about 4 ounces pumped in that one little session, and I feel like that's a pretty good amount for me. That's usually my standard. I usually tend to pump about 4 ounces from each side on each pumping session, so that's pretty good for me. And I just like that I'll be able to pop this right off like this and then pour it into a bag. Okay, so I went ahead and put my milk in the freezer. That way it didn't go bad sitting in here. And now I'm gonna go ahead and answer some more questions that I got about breastfeeding and the pump and postpartum. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that portion of the video. But I have something really exciting to offer you guys. If you are interested in purchasing an Elvie pump, you can actually use my code and the link in the description box for 10% off your Elvie pump. So definitely take advantage of that if you guys are interested, or you're expecting, or you need a new breast pump. I highly recommend the Elvie. I probably wouldn't be pumping at all without it, just because I truly have hated pumping in the past, and this has totally changed the pumping game for me. This question says, do you have advice for first-time moms on breastfeeding? So thankfully I have not had any like latch issues. I have not had to experience like a tongue or lip tie or any of those issues with my kids, so I have been very thankful on that end. I haven't exactly had many problems or issues with breastfeeding. I think a lot of issues come at the very beginning when it's very painful. For me, it's usually painful for about 2 weeks, no matter what child is, my first or my fourth. They're all equally painful for about 2 weeks, and then your nipples kind of get used to it. They toughen up a little bit, and I wish I had a better word for that, because unfortunately your nipples do kind of have to toughen up a little bit. And then after those 2 weeks, it becomes a little bit easier, less painful. I have suffered from mastitis 3 different times, so that is not exactly very fun. It's very painful, and you feel like you're sick and you have the flu, and that usually happens to me within like the first week postpartum. So it's definitely not easy at first, and to give advice to a first-time mom is that it doesn't feel good for a little while. Just expect that. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to get better, because it does. It gets easier, it gets better. For the first 2 weeks or so, your baby just wants to eat around the clock. It's just comforting for them. So hang in there. I promise it gets easier. And you know what? If you can't do it, if it hurts too much, if it's painful, what's best is that your baby is fed. So just don't put so much pressure on yourself. You just have to make the right choice for you and your child, and only you know what that is. So whether or not your child is breastfed or bottle fed, what matters is being fed. Fed is best, and I just believe that if it's too stressful for you, just make the right decision for you and don't listen to anybody else. How often do I pump? I usually pump about once a day, just to help build up that freezer stash. Like I said, have I ever suffered from a low milk supply? I felt like a hair on my lip here. And if so, how did you increase your milk supply? So as like, when your milk first comes in, you're usually really engorged because your body doesn't know how much to produce, and then your baby kind of lets your body know how much you produce based on how often they are eating. So my breast milk usually starts to level off around week 6 or so, which I think is pretty typically normal. You kind of start to get like a balance in there of how much they eat. I will usually start to decrease in milk supply once they start eating solids. Once I incorporate solids, it tends to go down just a little bit. And then my babies have always just kind of self-weaned around 9 months, except for Carter, who I was in nursing school with. But around 9 months, my supply just kind of dips based on how much they're eating. And then I have switched to formula for those last 3 months before they are a year old. I do feel like things like those lactation cookies that have brewer's yeast and all that kind of stuff, you have to eat a significant amount of them, but nobody has to tell me to eat more cookies. But also just staying really hydrated is the best way to increase your milk supply. So drinking a lot of water. Lately, I have been drinking liquid IVs, which I can link that in the description box below, as well as my discount code. But I feel like that has really helped to increase my milk supply lately. Just staying hydrated. If your body gets dehydrated, of course, you're not going to be making as much milk. How do I explain breastfeeding to a child Cash's age? Cash could care less about what's going on. He doesn't really understand or ask or really care. Cooper and Carter, however, are old enough to kind of understand that that's where he gets his food from, and it's never been an issue with us. So what I would just say is, well, that's where the baby gets his food from. That's where the baby's milk comes from, and leave it at that. I mean, Cash doesn't ask questions, but Cooper does, and he totally understands that the baby is drinking his milk. As far as getting a breastfed baby to take a bottle, the bottle that has worked best for us is the Como Tomo bottles. Those are the two that both Cash and Cooper took. Carter took a MAM bottle, and they also took MAM passies as well. And that brings up another issue, which is nipple confusion with the breast versus the passy. I have never had a child experience nipple confusion. They've always known, like, the nipple is where I'm getting my food from. But I've never had an issue with it causing nipple confusion to where they want the passy over the breast. That's just not something that I've ever had to deal with. However, you guys might have, and so I can't really give advice on that. But as far as I'm concerned, with all four of my children, we've never had an issue with giving a passy and breastfeeding at the same time. What do you have your other kids do while you're breastfeeding? This is an interesting question. I've seen this one for a few times about just breastfeeding and like what my other kids are doing. Literally causing chaos is what they're doing. You're pretty much gonna have to let some things go, honestly. Like when I'm feeding him, I feel a little bit helpless. Like my kids are just like a free-for-all, and they know when I sit down to feed, it's just like, hey, let's throw 1,000 diapers, you know, in the air, and let's rip off the whole roll of toilet paper. You know, some things are just gonna have to go. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes we're all just sitting in the living room watching a show or a movie, and I'm feeding him. Sometimes it's chaos, but things are just not gonna be perfect, and you're just gonna kind of have to roll with the punches for a little while. How am I feeling postpartum depression wise? And I also saw a lot of questions about the baby blues. So the baby blues are actually very normal. I feel like the baby blues, I don't know the percentage, I would have to look it up, but I feel like most women go through a period of baby blues. Within those 2 weeks that you come home from the hospital, it is quite a transition, whether it's your first baby or your fourth, fifth, however many babies. It's always a transition, and your hormones are like all over the place, and that can definitely cause you to feel a little bit sad. However, postpartum depression is something totally different from the baby blues. It's kind of like the baby blues that never go away. So I did experience some baby blues. I've been very open with everyone on my channel about my experience with postpartum depression, so it's not something that I hide. I do take Zoloft, and I have been on it since the end of Cooper's pregnancy because I experienced postpartum depression with Carter's pregnancy, and I also experienced pregnancy depression with Cooper. So I personally have been doing well. I have moments where I get a little bit overwhelmed and I do cry easily, and that happens every couple of days. It's not a daily thing. I don't have depression symptoms or anything, but I do feel like there was a period of time where I went through the baby blues, and I also had mastitis. So that makes things a little bit more difficult when you're just sick in general. But having a good support system is everything. Having a husband who understands. At first, I think that with the first baby, you don't know what to expect, so it's a little bit more difficult. But Jeff has been Jeff has just been a stand-up husband, and I think he should just start teaching classes because he knows what to do. He's not perfect, but I feel like he's been through this enough times to where he knows the kind of support that I need, and he knows when I need coffee. He knows when I need a nap. He knows when I need just some space. Getting out of the house, guys, that is a big one. Just being able to get out of the house for a little while is huge. Getting out of the house will save your sanity. If you stay in the house and never go out for like 6 weeks, you will go insane. At least I would go insane. The last question that I'm going to go ahead and answer is what to expect postpartum, just as far as the entire experience goes, because I saw a lot of questions on that, especially for first-time moms. Postpartum is not fun. I feel like it is the least talked about area of pregnancy, to where you're pregnant and everything is great, or sometimes not great, but then you have the baby and labor and delivery and all that, and then it's kind of like everything is centered towards the baby postpartum. So postpartum, you are probably going to have some healing going on downstairs. I had stitches in 3 different places, so the healing was a lot more intense than it was in my previous deliveries. Honestly, that pain was not quite as unbearable as the hemorrhoid pain was. Yay, hemorrhoids. I have had 4 vaginal deliveries. I've never had a C-section, so unfortunately, I cannot tell you my experience with a C-section because I don't have that experience. I only know what a vaginal delivery is like, but if you pushed hard enough, and in this last delivery, if you didn't see that video, I will leave it here or in the description box below. It was intense, and I did have some awful hemorrhoids after that. So that's something that they don't tell you about postpartum, is that not only will the hoo-ha be hurting, but your booty will be hurting also. Not to scare you, because that didn't happen with my first 3. It only happened with my 4th one, so you just kind of never know what you're gonna get. But also, just it's gonna be overwhelming. If it's your first baby, you know, you love them to death, but you also want a shower, and you also want some peace and quiet, and you want sleep. And so just giving yourself a little bit of grace is going to be huge. And I'm still struggling with that because I want my house clean. I want to shower. I want to look presentable. I want to get work done. But I also have this baby who relies on me for everything. So just giving yourself grace and having people around you to help out is really huge. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure to check out the Elvie pump. I highly recommend it. So make sure to take advantage of my discount code in the description box below and follow the link to check out that pump. If you guys have any more questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below, and you can also hit me up on Instagram, hit me up in the DMs, and I will try to answer your questions about the Elvie pump, or if you have questions about anything else, I would be happy to try to get to your questions. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and if you are new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe, and I will see you guys all in my next vlog. Bye.